Hello, it's Fred and Sheila.
Hi, McCoy. Behind the camera.
From the Hatfield McCoy Museum in Liberty, Kentucky. FredMcCoy.com, Hatfield's McCoy's Museum.com. Today we're going to discuss a video, so I guess it's keeping it real. This will be a keeping it real one, where we've seen something, heard something, watched something, somebody told us something, especially YouTube videos that we feel needs to be corrected or that was incorrect. So this was a video on YouTube on Jim Vance. And once again, I know people don't like the reading part, but I'm going to try to narrate, but I'll read some of it because I want to get it right. So
exactly.
When we get off here, you'll have the facts. Sometimes I wonder if these people are really even serious when they make these videos or they make these comments. The narrator says, Jim Vance was often seen as a loose cannon of the feud, but he was not a major player in the feud. Laughable. Laughable. Anybody that knows anything about the Hatfield-McCoy feud, the history of the Hatfield-McCoy feud. Let me make some comments here from Fred McCoy. Jim was not only a major player in the feud, he was ruthless, or what the Marines would call a survivor. Number two, however, in that day and time of civil unrest, remember this is after the Civil War, you had to be ruthless to survive. And Jim Vance was a survivor. Like him or hate him, he was a survivor. I know some people says I never bragged on the Hatfields or the West Virginia Hatfields or the Jim Vance, people like that. Well, I am now. Jim Vance was a man's man. He was a fighter, a survivor, a mountain man. While Vance was a coward and put others up to doing his dirty work, Jim was not afraid to get his hands dirty. A true leader, and he led by example. He was there with these guys when they done this stuff. He didn't say, I'm sick, I think I'll stay at home tonight. You guys go out there and do this dirty work in case warrants come down. I'd rather see my children go to jail or my brother go to jail or my nephew hung. I just can't get involved. That's not a leader. Jim Vance was a leader. Jim Vance went down fighting like a man while Vance hid in caves and Cap Hatfield ran out west. The video confirms, or at least agrees with our perspective, that Jim Vance was at all major events. They say in this video that Jim Vance was at all the major events, but he wasn't the leader. We agree Jim was at every major event and a willing participant. Sheila I'll hold these up there.
Yeah,
so
I can try to take pictures too,
well,
so they can see
might
it.
be able to.
There you go, right there.
And y'all can just pause it right there and read that if you
Yeah,
can.
that looks good.
And this one here will be the same way.
Okay. That's a good one. Good job.
Spoken into history, the narrator says Vance was more of a follower than the leader of the feud. And it's thought that he didn't instigate any of the events that unfolded. Laughable. Number one, it's thought. Thought by who? They just wrote or spoke this comment into history. This is one person's thoughts, but after they say it or write it, it becomes known as the truth when other people read it. Henceforth, and repeated, it will be known as the truth. Just like they took a zero and turned him into a hero and a law-abiding citizen into a coward and a drunk. And that's what they done. They took a zero, Vance Hatfield, a deserter, desperado, a bushwhacker, all these things, and they turned him into a hero. He helped them with his own monument. And they took Randall McCoy, a Christian, a just man, never drank alcohol, but you'll see him on that History Channel running in the trees drunk and all that. What a reputation. How to destroy a man's reputation or his family name. And Altina Waller's another one that has helped in the course of that throughout the years. And I Googled Waller yesterday, It's not part of this story, but I Googled Waller. And a Waller come up. The first one that come up was he plays ball, and he's hooked on drugs or something. And I thought to myself, how would Altina Waller like it if all the Wallers with that surname were now considered to be druggies and hooked on meth and things like that? How would she like? And that's what she done in 1988 when she wrote her book. She portrayed the McCoys as cowards, as jealous, as all these things. And she sat there and laughed like it had nothing to do with, I'm getting off on another story. In fact, we've got 2 boards to do on Altina Waller and her book. So instead of getting off on it now, I'll come back to it.
For later.
She's motioning to me back there. But we want to discuss that because that's how people can, so they took Devil Vance and turned him into a hero, and Randall McCoy and turned him into a zero, a man that fought, a man that was prisoner of war, a man that just wanted justice for his children, and turned him into a zero, more or less. Same as Rio Hatfield did with Hubert Bay McCoy. Rio Hatfield's the one, and beat it all, the best videos that we've got, or I think are the best because I'm trying to clear up some things, are the lawsuit, Hubert Bay McCoy story, and that's the least amount of watches we've got on our videos. And that's some of the most interesting stories of how people can take their pride and narcissist attitude and personality and defame other people while trying to build themselves or their family name up. And if you'll watch that, you'll be flabbergasted that they took, that Rio Hatfield told a story on Hubert Bay McCoy that he shot his grandfather in the back 3 times, and his grandfather turned around and shot him, and it happened to be a McCoy. And it's just, it's fabricated. Hubert Bay McCoy was unarmed when Alan Hatfield shot him in the back of the head and killed him. And in fact, he was sentenced to 5 years hard labor. But that's all in another video, and you can read that. But that's what we're trying to do, is correct these stories. Here's customers coming, so we're gonna kill this video.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry about that. We're open today, and we make these videos in between the visitors. So lastly, the narrator says, while the circumstances of his death are disputed, referring to Jim Vance, while the circumstances of his death are disputed, the date of his death of January the 10th is not. Well, I beg the pardon, or beg to differ. Yes. Jim Vance was killed 8 days after the McCoy Cabin Massacre on January the 8th, 1888, after Cap Hatfield ran off, leaving Jim to fend for himself in the heat of battle. And that shows that the twig doesn't fall far from the tree, because that's what Devil Vance did to Randall McCoy and Uriah in the Civil War. Vance was shot and wounded by Bud McCoy, Frank Phillips, and Jim McCoy in the shootout. There was 3 people that shot Jim Vance that day that there's never been any doubt of. And that's Jim McCoy, Randall McCoy's oldest son. That was Bud McCoy, which was Asa Harmon McCoy's youngest son. We've got the gun over there that he actually used. He borrowed, the gun was bought in 1886, according to the historical records at the Winchester Museum. And the gun belonged to Jacob, his brother, and Jacob had loaned it to Bud to go with the posse. And then Frank Phillips had also shot Jim Vance. Now, who actually killed him that day? He may have been killed by Bud or Jim McCoy, but there's always been no doubt that Frank Phillips didn't deliver at least one of the death shots at the end of the day. All kinds of stories throughout the years of grotesque things that he was said to have done. We wasn't there, so who knows? But I have no doubt that Frank Phillips, and after him seeing the old woman beat and 2 more children dead, that he wanted to make sure Jim Vance paid. And I'm going to tell you about Jim Vance. Jim Vance, if there was a hero in the Hatfield family, if there was a hero or somebody to really look up to, it would have been Jim Vance. But somewhere along the way, because of that big monument Devil Vance set, they've always wanted to treat Devil Vance like a hero. And Devil Vance was not a hero. If you want to look at somebody ruthless, look at somebody that fought, that wasn't afraid to take up arms, that wasn't afraid to confront others, that was Jim Vance. Jim Vance was a hell of a man. That's who the songs should have been wrote about, a hell of a man, is Jim Vance. And his nickname, Bad Jim Vance, Crazy Jim Vance, he lived up to him. And he didn't mind. He didn't mind living up to those names. That was him. That was his personality. Devil Vance was a coward. Devil Vance instigated other people. Why did this person, go back and read that thing that we just put there. Why did this person have to say, why did they want to make a point of that? Because this is a relative of Devil Vance's. This is a relative of Devil Vance's, because they wrote somewhere in here, Vance was more of a follower than a leader in the feud. And it's thought that he didn't instigate any of the events that unfolded. What a comment. If you all can't read through that and see through that, there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to convince you. We all know who instigated it. We all know who started all this and where it was led, and then where it was dropped off at, where Devil Vance would, there at the end, quit going places. He pointed his sons. Johnsy went to prison. He served several years in prison before he was released. But he went to prison and paid his due to society. Cap never paid. Cap was in jail at one time, but it was for other charges that took place in West Virginia, where he killed some other people. But he never did, was held accountable for the deaths in Kentucky. Once again, this is Fred and Sheila McCoy, keeping it real. Sheila, you got anything?
No, just please like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe for Sheila. And for me, just always keep these. When you see these stories, for me, keep me in mind of what I'm saying, and how to read into things, and how to question things, and don't believe everything you see because it's in a book, because it's on YouTube, because it's on TV, in a movie, and especially because it's on the History Channel. I always thought the History Channel was about history. I thought it had credibility. History Channel has no credibility. You can't believe that as history. They're more into Hollywood, and that's okay. That's how they. But you shouldn't be called History Channel if you're not going to be correct on your history. Thanks for joining us, Fred and Sheila McCoy. Like and subscribe. Catch you next time.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.